line is to say read all about it, okay? So let's listen to the Les Brown Orchestra. And as that happens, Steve, come on up. Steve.
Hello, Joe. What do you know?
We need a hit, so here I go.
You don't know the words to this tune. Have you heard it before?
Awesome.
It's kind of a dinky song, but that's what they put. Steve Lipary, and I guess we can pull that down a little. Steve runs LC Galleries across the street. He's brought in a few things from his shop and gallery. And what's really great about this is that you got started about the time that Joe was coming back to Martinez, and you have a few little stories about that. So why don't you tell us one about how he helped you get started in the business?
Okay, yeah, Joe used to come in a little bit. Is that kind of close or too far away? A little close on.
You can
Hear me now? All right, anyways, yeah, probably my fondest moment was with Joe when he came in. It was proud to have him here. He's Italian descent from Martinez. I'm Italian as well, so that was quite the honor. And he used to come in and we'd talk baseball and stuff like that. And he really knew his sports. It was pretty surprising to me. I'm pretty good as far as the history of baseball and stuff like that goes, but he knew everything from the teens. So teens, 20s, 30s, and he kind of lost me. I was in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and I thought I was something, but
He told you he got a book, didn't he?
Oh yeah, one time I remember talking to Joe, and I actually loved it, but we're in there and we're talking to him, and I had a photo that I had in my personal collection. I'm a big collector, so I had a photo of Joe DiMaggio, and it was in his SEALs uniform. The type that I'm wearing right now was in 1933, and he had a bat, and he had 40 and 41, I think it was, on card. And I said, hey Joe, I got a photo of you, and it says 40-41. I said, is that from your hitting streak and that you had with the SEALs? You had a 61-game hitting streak. And he says, oh yeah, you ought to get a book by Dick Dobbins called Diamonds in the Rough. And I said, oh, I have that book. And he said, well then read it. And I loved that. Honestly, I thought, well, that's great. It was pretty funny. I loved it. I thought, well, you idiot. Well, you really stuck your foot in your mouth on that.
Well, and describe that, just the feeling of being around him and because he did a lot. He signed a few things for you, right? And sometimes you weren't on the ball enough. You told me in one story that he told you that he was going to sign it.
Yeah, I don't know if I was on the ball or he was. I don't know who was on or off the ball, but yeah, I never asked Joe to sign anything for me for free, because he'd come down to the shop and people, and next thing you know, there's 25 people down there, 50 people within every, multiplies, and people would be going into Valpo Drug at the time, getting baseball and running in there. Pretty soon there's 100 people, so I learned when he came by, I just closed the door. I didn't have to deal with it, but I never asked actually Joe to sign anything for me for free, because in this business I knew I didn't want him to think that I was, using our relationship to take advantage of him. So I always paid him when we did do signings. And this is signed Joe DiMaggio Yankee Clipper, which he doesn't usually sign. And there were 361 of these made, and it's numbered. That was because that's how many home runs he hit. And this is a real famous piece here. This is from the Barry Halper collection. He was actually one of the biggest collectors in the history of collecting memorabilia. People like Joe DiMaggio used to go to his house and they'd actually give him artifacts. When Hank Aaron hit his 715th, he'd give him the jersey and they'd give him things. And all of a sudden we're hanging out, we're talking, and Joe's looking around my shop, and he looks up at this and he goes, I didn't sign that. And I'm like, oh, what do you say to Joe DiMaggio? I'm me. I'm nobody,
You're 20-something years old.
Yeah, I'm like 29 years old, got my shop, I'm trying to do something, and Joe's telling me he didn't sign something that I know he signed, and I'm like, oh boy, how do I address this? So I just kind of shut up, and he goes, yeah, I didn't sign that, and he's getting kind of ornery about it. And I said, Joe, I don't want to argue with you. You're Joe DiMaggio, but you did sign it. He goes, I didn't sign that. And I'm thinking, oh man. So then I thought real quick, I was like, okay, how do I do this? This is very uncomfortable. So I went in my book of photos and I got a picture of Joe signing it.
With the date.
With the date on it. Yeah, back then, all the photos had the date on them. And so I said, well, Joe, I said, I don't know how to tell you this. Here's a photo of you signing. Oh, okay, I guess I did sign it. He let it go pretty easy, but for me, it was very uncomfortable at the time.
Well, we have Joe's voice. Play the clip of him talking here about, because this leads into the next thing we're going to do, of what Joe DiMaggio's voice was, talking about the hitting streak, that clip.
First, I got some recognition after my 30th some odd game, and it wasn't thought very much of then, but it gained momentum, and after, of course, the 40th game, why it built up to such a percentage that the pressure started to apply to me. We generally walk to the ballpark from the Cleveland Hotel to the municipal ground, which is only about a 6-block walk. However, we decided to take a cab this particular day, and as entering the cab, the fellow looked over at me and he says, aren't you Joe? And I said, yes. He said, I got a feeling you're going to be stopped tonight. It was a night game, and well, lefty like to climb all over the fellow. He felt very bad about the whole incident throughout that night because he had felt the jinx was put upon him. We started a little bit of a rally in one inning, and they brought in Jim Bagby, a relief pitcher, and there was a man on first base, and I was at bats with one out, and I hit a ball to the left. Lou Boudreau was managing the ball, who was playing shortstop. And as going to field the ball took a bad hop, and he got his glove up in time and threw to second base and completed the double play, and that's how that streak was broken.
And where did that happen?
Gio.
That happened in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes, sir. Great city.
This man, who sounds like he's from New Orleans, is actually from Cleveland. So. You spend time with modern athletes who make a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot more than Joe. Joe,
Yeah.
I think maybe it's turned on.
It's on.
Oh, it is on? Sure, okay, anyways. Yeah, Joe was the first one to sign a $100,000 contract. Nowadays, obviously, they get more than that to do signings. So, for instance, Madison Bumgarner right now, I'm kind of mad at him, even though I love him and I'm grateful, but he's charging me $250 for whatever he wants to sign.
And this is, to just close this up, how do you rate, or fairly, the feeling of Joe, old school, 20th century baseball with the, we lost the Panda. A lot of people in this room were sad because the Panda left, and that was probably money. It wasn't like if he were a Yankee back then, he would stay with the team.
Yeah, I would say, to be honest with you, of course I like Panda too, he's done great things, but to me there's no comparison. Guys like Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, those guys were something else. They stayed with the teams more, they had more loyalty, and I don't think there's any comparison to, say, Joe DiMaggio and Pablo Sandoval.
Yeah, even though Pablo
quite a difference
be graceful, yes, at times.
Well, yeah, and character, and there's a lot of things there.
All right, well, good. We appreciate that. We're going to now, you're free to leave. He doesn't do much public speaking at his